You're listening to the Ryen Russillo podcast presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook is the best place to bet on the NBA because not only does FanDuel have all of your favorite player props, but now you can even check out stats and recent performance trends right in the app before you make your picks. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to get in on the action. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. On today's episode of the podcast, I love that the playoffs are here. Tales from the Couch, playoff style, all those hours. Basketball's real, all those fucking hours. Sorry I spoke so early. Apologize to the kids in the car and to the parents. But let's get into it. Kawhi's huge night. Jokic's bad night. Some thoughts on that. What's happening defensively against Jokic. Also, Cade Cunningham, a rival game. Do I get a little carried away in the open? Perhaps. But I don't think I do. And then Jalen Brunson took a lot of shots. Were they all good ones? We're going to talk NFL draft a couple days away. It is real. There's clocks on televisions right now. Danny Heifetz, Danny Kelly, part of our draft coverage. They have a podcast, and we'll go through a bunch of exercises talking about the first round and life advice. We start Tuesday with a little playoff tales from the couch. The Clippers even up the series in Denver, 1 apiece. Kawhi Leonard responding the way he always has historically. 39 points, 15 to 19. He started the game 12 of 13. It was just stupid. It was just the stupid. Kawhi can get to wherever he wants to get. He's going to pull up. He's going to hit the shots over the top of you. Incredibly efficient and a great response after the 7 turnovers in game 1, including the 1 turnover you just never expect. Like Jamal Murray's going to slap the ball away from you and it's going to be a turnover. So at 103, 102, just classic Kawhi, just how smart he is with everything. Not that, this makes him the most brilliant basketball player of all time, but just really simple things. He's got it at the top. He sees Westbrook sliding over to his left. He figures anything to that side, I'm going to be doubled. He's got Harden in the right corner. He knows the defender can't help off of Harden. So he figures out, look, let me just get away. Let me get away from where the traffic will be. And if I can get to my spot, pull up and hit the shot. And he does so, 105, 102. At 55 seconds left, though, sealing that was when he hit the shot at 55 seconds. A little later on, Denver just scrambling. Another offensive possession where it looks like a mess. Don't worry, I'll get to Jokic and his night here. And Jokic throws the ball up in the air. It's his 7th turnover. And guess who steals it? It's Kawhi. Kawhi, because of Denver, one, it was either Christian Brown and Westbrook just watching and then losing sight of hey, you got to still kind of play to get into some space or give Jokic some kind of passing lane. And look, I'm not blaming them for the pass because the pass was terrible. But Kawhi was basically able to cover 2 guys and read the pass, which he had done earlier in a different play where Jokic facing a double team on one of his other turnovers was looking for Aaron Gordon in the left corner, and Kawhi just read it perfectly. So part of it's instincts, part of it's bad spacing, but ultimately it's the pass that Jokic cannot make. Before I get back to Kawhi here, I think there's at least some time should be spent on what's happening to Jokic. 7 turnovers, 5 of them were awful. Looked at them again this morning. 4 were against double teams. I mean, just strange stuff. Like the Watson one where he just threw it to nobody, way over his head. He had another play too where he thought the shot clock was about to expire and then he just threw it up. He also is missing free throws. I don't know what's going on. He had 2 huge free throw misses, back-to-back free throws, at the line. You never think he's going to miss 2. He missed 2 in a huge spot in game 1. That is forgotten because they win. But right now he's 10 of 16 from the free throw line in this series. So, he took a bunch of shots in game 1. He only took 16 last night. His second 2-point attempt in the game was in the 3rd quarter. That was also when he was taking his first free throws. So the double team part of this, and I'm wondering, that's always the fear with Jokic is, well, if you double him and you keep doubling him, he's just going to read it and then he's going to pick you apart. So you're really, I think teams kind of argue about how they want to go about this and try to show him different things. But what the Clippers are doing is they're doubling anything that's in the paint and they're doubling him on his first move, not on the catch. And he got stripped by Kawhi in the paint in the first half. You can tell that he's getting frustrated with it. I don't know if it also becomes a Clippers thing where, hey, if Westbrook hits a couple threes like he did last night, we're okay with that. I know what Aaron Gordon's numbers are in the corner. We're okay with that. And Chris Dunn's able to harass Jamal Murray enough that it slows them down. Like they're not just going to be able to walk into their two-man game, even though they're still going to run that a million times as Jokic and Murray, because that's just been the foundation of who they are on offense for such a long time. Like it's still going to work sometimes, but we're not just going to let you ease right into this all the time. And then if Jokic stalls and makes some kind of move or it's a dribble now, we're just going to help off of any of these shooters. But even with all of that said, Jokic can't have the turnovers that he had last night. I mean, it's just shocking. And I don't know where the frustration is coming from him. And again, maybe a comfort level as the series continues with the Clippers is like, we can start helping off even more on some of this stuff. Or if Jokic is going to have some game where he starts to realize what you're doing and then being more prepared. But he needs to be more prepared to take more shots. He can't take 16 shots in a playoff game, not with this group that's around him. And he also needs to stop passing up the open threes. I know he's done it his whole career. We all wish he took more threes. There's that look where he gets it, but this is not December against Portland, man. Like it has to be a moment when you have that space and you've shot it as well as you do from three this season, like that's probably going to be the best shot, but he likes to play out the possessions longer. I mean, it's hard to sit here and be like, hey, maybe you need to tweak some of the stuff you're doing when he's the best player in the world. But in this series and the way the Clippers are flying around defensively, there's a couple last night again, and we all know what they are. It's like, you got to get that shot off there. He also had a play where when the Clippers had the ball, Kawhi received the ball really deep and Murray was behind him. And then Kawhi turned around and made another shot. And Jokic was incensed. And he was still so mad as he was bringing the ball up, after an inbounds, after the make. He was kind of galloping and he was just that mad. And, he's got his hands down and everything. So frustrating night for him and from him. But with somebody like Jokic, when you're at that level, it's the same as SGA having a bad game one. I can be like, hey, is this guy that good? You can find maybe that content somewhere else. I did think we were getting the Jim Harden game. You probably thought it too. He started 1 of 5 in the first quarter. Some of the defensive stuff, I'm like, come on, Jim. What's going on, buddy? I mean, in transition, if you're driving at him, it must be the best feeling ever. Be like, oh, this is awesome. He's not going to do anything. The times on defense, you're like, who are you guarding right now? What's going on? But to James' credit, 4 threes in the second and third quarter. Did only take one shot in the fourth, but it was pretty clear Kawhi had it going, that Harden was providing spacing, even if that floater game from Harden is just so frustrating because you're still not 100% sure. I mean, I think it goes in more often than I think that it's going to go in. And it was also important that Norm Powell got involved a little bit because he only had 2 makes through 3 quarters and then, had some big shots there in the fourth quarter. So Kawhi finishes with 39, as we said at the top. So that's his 36th 30-point playoff game in his last 81 playoff games, which I think is the important note because in the beginning he was not somebody they were looking to get 30 from when he was with the Spurs the first few years. But he always seems to respond. Not that you'd be sitting here doubting him, but it's a nice little reminder because of the Paul George transaction, which I know is kind of annoying to bring this into it, but I think it's always something that I remind myself of as SGA's running around in OKC and there's all these draft picks. You're like, yeah, but if you're sitting there and you're Lawrence Frank and you go, if I trade for George, I know I'm getting Kawhi. And despite Kawhi being in street clothes so many years in a row while the playoffs are going on, a nice little reminder of why a team would go all in on somebody like that because he was spectacular last night. Okay, Detroit evens the series in New York after a disastrous fourth quarter, 21-0 run by the Knicks. The building's on fire. You see the separation. Granted, look, I think the Knicks are going to win this series, but this was an incredible response from a Pistons team that is young. This is new for them and also ends a ridiculous losing streak in the playoffs. They have not won a playoff game or had not won a playoff game since the 2008 series against the Celtics. 15 straight losses in the playoffs. That was the longest active streak in NBA history. This is a team that had made it to 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals. Just to put that into perspective, I don't think the Bucks will be swept. Okay, Bucks fans, take it easy. in the sensitive off series in the East between Indiana and Milwaukee. Just imagine if you said to the Bucks fan base, all right, you get swept. And this is a franchise that's made it to 9 straight postseasons. You get swept in 25. Your next playoff win is going to be in 2042. Now, with Giannis, that's impossible, but just the premise, these reminders of what these droughts can be like. And I'm reminded of every year in the NFL playoffs when you go like, when's the last time that team, like, how does it go 20 plus years from multiple franchises? It just, especially that sport too, right? But in the NBA for a Pistons team that, I wouldn't say is the standard, but still a franchise with some really good history and a track record of like when they won that last game in 2008, it's like, hey, your next win's going to be in 2025. You're just like, well, that's impossible. That can't actually happen. And that's exactly what happened. So how did it happen? Cade Cunningham. Now, I want to talk about Cade a little bit here because he was so good last night, and I'll get into some of the stuff that he was doing, that even if this series doesn't work out for Detroit, right? This is just another part of the runway that started last year with Cade becoming statistically what you'd hope you would get with the number 1 overall pick. But then in this moment in New York to respond, go for 30, it just is a great feeling because of all of these teams searching for somebody, especially when you have the opportunity to draft that high. Like, is there a chance that we're getting a guy? Now, there's tiers to guys. And I'd say whatever that important, like, first tier that you have to get to, he is there. Now, is he a guy, right? Different emphasis on the pronunciation of that. That is a whole nother level. If we're talking about that, which I do talk about often, is how many people actually change the course of your franchise and make you think you have a chance to be a title contender. I mean, that's completely different. And that's not even, I'm not moving the goalpost here on Detroit. I'm just trying to talk about Cade in the sense of like what Detroit potentially has. Because we had touched on this before, I think Bill and I, but we never fully, it was almost like we were doing a prep for a show, but we didn't actually do this on the show. But he always talks about, who has the belt. And I think it's a really interesting way to look at the top players in the NBA. It's like, who's the best player in the league at that time and how long was his run? Almost like heavyweight champs. And so if you think about who we have now in the game that either has had the belt or could potentially have the belt. I mean, Kawhi is somebody that at one point had it. I don't know that he's ever going to have it again, but it sure looked like it last night. Clearly, Giannis has had it. I don't know that he has it now. I think most of us would give it to Jokic. SGA is going to win MVP, I imagine. So that's 3, right? Available belt contenders still. Could Giannis be the best player in the world again? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's going to be tough to pass. Jokic is going to be tough for anybody too. But SGA is in that conversation. So there's 3. I think Luka is 4. And this is really asking, like, could any of these guys potentially be the best player in the world? I think Ant is at least on the list as far as a discussion. I don't know that Tatum will ever be the single best player in the world, but he was even better this year, even though I know everybody wants to shit on him with the playoff shooting the last couple of years. I think Wemby's probably added to this. If you look at the GM poll, he won who would you most want to build around, which is fair. That can also be really misleading. I always like to remind people that in 2016, the GM poll, 48% of voters, of general managers in the NBA, said that they would want to build their franchise around Cat. That's a real thing that did happen. So how long can you go before you just start naming guys that are like kind of good and young? Paolo's probably worth a mention, and of course, clearly Wembanyama. I don't know if Cade's on the Paolo line. Maybe it feels like, hey, Cade should be right there with Powell. That's fine. I wouldn't push back on any of that. But that's at least in play to be mentioned as another potential guy. I mean, that's asking a lot to be like, hey, can he be the best guy in the world just because he had 30 in game 2? That's not really what I'm doing here. But it's just this awesome feeling of like, hey, they got it right with the number 1 pick. It was a little bumpy statistically in the beginning. I also think maybe we need to be a little bit more accepting of point guards coming into the NBA and how long it takes them to figure some of this stuff out. But what I loved about last night's game is just his pace and how quick he was and how decisive he was. When they get out and run and he's just leading the break, like that's a lot to deal with a guy with his handle, his size, his athleticism. And I'm not talking about like him being ant athletic, but when you're one-on-one with him in transition, good luck. I mean, OG is really the only chance for the Knicks physically that can keep up with him. So of his 21 shot attempts last night, I looked at it, how hard he worked the switches and how hard he would attack when it was a non-OG possession. 7 of the shots were against OG, 4 against Jalen Brunson, 4 against Bridges, 2 against Hart, 2 against Cat, 2 against Mitchell. So only 7 of the 21 shot attempts last night were against OG. And OG does, by the way, when he gets switched, when he's hunting somebody else and OG is switched off of him, OG does a great job of getting back into the play defensively to give you a chance. But with Cade, with his size and seeing over the top of everybody, this wasn't even the big assist night from Cade. It's just still so much to deal with. And then on top of that, when you look at the decisions is usually how it's pronounced, for Bickerstaff on how he wants to close, like we know it's Duren, we know it's Beasley, who had a chance to hit the nail in the coffin 3, missed it. I just hesitate with guys that have to negotiate with their coach on whether or not they can do a shimmy. And coach was like, can you do it when they call a timeout so that way you can get back on defense instead of shimmying? And it's like, coach, it's kind of my shit though. So yeah, that's an aside on Beasley. We'll leave that one alone. But the Schroeder part of this clearly makes Cade's life easier. And so if you look at the Ausar Schroeder decision for Bickerstaff, it was made for him last night because Ausar fouls out. Went over the 6 fouls. First one was a collision, whatever. Second one was a good foul. The third foul was Brunson stopping on a cut. Ausar's behind him. I don't think that should ever be called. If you want to just stop before you would get to the ball on a cut and the guy, you're break checking dudes, that should never be a foul. The fourth one was stupid where their arms got tangled up. The fifth foul was egregiously terrible against Ausar. He just beat him to the spot. Brunson fell down. And then they just give him the foul. And then he hit Brunson when Brunson up fake from the 3-point line. You're going to get that call every time. That one didn't bother me as much. It was a little interesting, too, to see people kind of notice the Brunson foul baiting part of it. Dude, I'm telling you, last night's not even that bad based on Brunson standards. But because Ausar's fouling out, it was like there was a heightened awareness for all of it. And look, Ausar in game 1, when Brunson had that turnover going into the scores table, Ausar he just got to the spot, man. And I think Brunson was like more embarrassed than he was mad about not getting a call. Although, look, maybe he thought he should have had a call. I have a little bit more here on Brunson, but to finish on that, so you could think Ausar might be the better spot there defensively if he hadn't fouled out. But it's very clear with Schroeder getting Cade off of the ball. And Schroeder, even though now he's assigned to Brunson, like he doesn't like him. He doesn't like Dennis. Like they don't like each other. That's probably good for Detroit because Schroeder's just so motivated to try to stay in the possession defensively against Brunson. Brunson, 27 shots last night. Very easy. I saw some of it this morning of that's just too many shots. You're right. But you know what's crazy about the 27? I went through them again this morning. I'd say 21 of the 27 shots are good. So that's not 27 and being gross. It's just, hey, this is what's happening. And he's so good offensively. I would grade out 21 of those 27 shots as good shot decisions. Now, the problem is what's happening to everybody else. What happened to the Cat pick and pop stuff from 3? He's taken 2.5 threes in this series. Cat has also, if Tobias Harris is going to shut you down, that's a problem. I don't know if there's anything to be gained from the Cat Mitchell minutes together because that puts Duren on Mitchell. And then you've got Harris on Cat, but Harris is winning more of those one-on-one matchups against Cat than I think you would expect, especially when he gets Cat turned around and Cat is trying to post up from like 15 feet away. And then, you get anybody to take a turnaround, that's kind of a win for you there. So for Cat, 0 makes in the second half, 0 shots in the fourth quarter. So look, I still think the Knicks win the series, but Brunson taking 27 shots, even if most of them are good, It's just making them easier to defend because the whole point of Cat is stretching the floor and opening some of this stuff up. And if he's not even taking those shots, it changes who the Knicks are on offense. The Ryen Russillo podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are finally here, and if you think you know how it's all going to go down, then make those predictions pay off with FanDuel and their same-game parlay profit boosts. Just build your perfect parlay, activate the boost, and lock in your bet. If it hits, that's a bigger payout for you at no extra cost. Okay, looking at the board. Nice little run lately here, but I do not like the Pacers Bucks. I don't know what to do with that line. I don't know how you take even the 14.5 with Memphis at OKC. Honestly, forced to choose. I don't even think laying the 14.5. You could go, all right, I got this one wrong. The next day you'd be okay with yourself just because they may not even be able to figure out how big to make that line. Do you think Memphis responds? I mean, SG didn't even play that well, but I'm going to focus on the last game. Minnesota plus 5.5. This is a big number for how these teams match up against each other. And this is how I always look at the series where each game is connected. I don't think Detroit necessarily wins game 2 if they don't blow game 1. This is something that I would not debate with anyone. These games are connected. The outcome of the previous game heavily influences the next game, unless a team completely is overwhelmed. Speaking of Memphis and OKC, but I think this is a really big number for Minnesota. So I like the 5.5. So I would play that just straight. If you want to do a little boost here, how about a 2-legger? How about 20-point scores? To score 20 more points in this series, LeBron in game 2 is minus 330. So score 20 more points, but Minnesota plus the 5.5, that's plus 146. Sound good? Well, you can score an even bigger W because FanDuel is giving you a profit boost for all of tonight's action. So don't just be a spectator this postseason. Head to FanDuel.com/Ryen, RYEN, to download America's #1 sportsbook and make every moment more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Let's talk some draft, and let's do it with a couple of the best here from The Ringer. You can check out their podcast, The Ringer NFL Draft Show. As I was listening, they do some good positional stuff, episode by episode, and also The Ringer Fantasy Football Show during the season. And you guys we're going to be live in Chicago tonight. We got Danny Heifetz and Danny Kelly who've been doing this for a little while. Is that true? The live show's tonight?
Yeah, so the live show, today's Tuesday, April 22nd. So yeah, we're live in Chicago. We sold it out. So it's a fun draft show, and then doing it Tuesday so we don't put DK on a plane on Thursday and stress him out.
Right.
Oh, all right. That makes a lot of sense. Both have mock drafts that are up. I got to be honest with you, and I guess maybe I'll just do a Danny and then a DK here on this one. I felt, Danny, it was a little rude to click on your mock, and then it would say, if you want to see Danny Kelly's big board instead. I just don't like the wording. It feels rude.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're at pick 7 and you're on the fence about Heifetz stuff here, don't worry, we have this for you as well. I just think it needs to be phrased differently. It felt rude when I was on it this morning.
Yeah, that's actually a big part of my contract. I'm always making sure to be one spot above Heifetz on everything. Give everybody the option to read my stuff instead of Heifetz's. That's a big part of it.
All right. Well, we got that out of the way. At least we could clear that up a little bit.
That's good advice, though. That's some real life advice. It's just listen to me, but do whatever DK says. That's generally good thing to do.
Because there is definitely, I don't know, as I was looking at it this morning, let's try this exercise before I get a little bit deeper to how you guys are seeing both mocks. Because we both know the mocks, the exercise is kind of like however you think how many players in your grouping should become first rounders. So let's start with something easy here. I want to go picks 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 32. Players in that range. Okay. So the 1 to 2 range, the exercise here is I'll be shocked if this player isn't a stud. From the 1 to 10 range, you can't pick Travis or Abdul Carter. All right. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with DK.
I mean, I think the easy answer here is Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State. It would be shocking to me if he didn't end up being at least a very good running back in the league. I mean, elite contact balance, good explosiveness, makes guys miss in a phone booth, good in the passing game. He's basically as complete of a running back as you can get. I think the one thing that maybe he doesn't have that some of the most elite running back prospects of the past have had is like that extra gear, that home run gear. But I think otherwise he has everything you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think Genty is a Hall of Fame player with the phrase of, I mean, not literally Hall of Fame, but Hall of Fame when the stats meet the eye test. Like you watch Ashton Genty and you're like, oh, no one can tackle him. I still think my favorite thing anyone said about Genty is every time someone goes to tackle him, it looks like they're getting electrocuted. And then you go to look at the stats and you're like, oh yeah, his yards after contact are more than anyone just has yards, period, last season. My favorite Genty stat is just that he had 1,000 rushing yards before he had 100 carries, which I still can't get over.
Yeah, and the thing is there's enough film probably against, and I would ask you guys to jump in here with Genty. Is there enough in the Oregon game? Is there enough in the Penn State game that you feel like it's not just about the competition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he rose to the occasion. I thought even when they were playing some of the bigger teams, because obviously like playing at Boise State, the level of competition is going to be a question mark. But I thought every team that he was playing all year knew he was going to be the centerpiece, the focus of that offense, and he still produced every single game. So I think there are some, I guess, like ways to look at it, like the competition is a concern, but I think he did more than enough against some of the quote unquote big teams that I'm not too worried about it.
And I think that's fair, Russillo. Like we were talking about, what if Genty sucks? And we're going to be like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't have cared what he did versus Utah State. But even the Penn State game, people were like, oh, he only had 100 yards. I'm like, they sold out to stop him. Like he got the Derrick Henry treatment in that game. And I thought he still fared decently well considering the crazy disproportionate game plan they had. Penn State had to just stop him. So, I mean, I am willing to just do the outlandish Walter Payton-esque comps for Genty. I think he's going to be incredible. But I also know that he probably should have been lumped in with Hunter and Carter. So, I think that, honestly, I think this is the hardest one, is the 1 to 10. Weirdly, it feels almost harder to, if you take Genty out of it, to find a fourth guy that you're like, oh yeah, he'll definitely be a guy.
Yeah, the Penn State game, I felt great about him after the fact. Like there was nothing in there. It was like, oh, okay. It really feels maybe with tight ends and receivers, it's more alarming when you see production against a lower level, just because the separation, it's just easier. It's just easier to get off. And then when you'll see somebody step up and you're like, uh-oh, like now he's going up against NFL corners. I think McShay and I have talked a lot about too with some of the tackles at the lower levels. We're like, hey, it's just hard to look at all the film if you're not going up against any of the dudes that you expect to be drafted on day one. Like, what are you really evaluating? Because then you start getting into just technique and everything. I would throw in Jalen Walker. I'd be really surprised. And it seems like you guys are split on him in your mocks as well. But if I can't go with Carter, quarterbacks we know are still a coin toss. Clearly Travis would be the pick here. If I'm going to do something different, I just loved Walker so much. And I felt like out of that group of the Georgia guys, his pursuit was incredible. His ability to chase down guys you just don't think. So, whether it's him being a little undersized and not being like the prototypical, look, not everybody gets to be Myles Garrett, but I would be surprised if Walker's not making plays if they just unleash him on Sundays.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. He's my 10th player on my big board. I just think he's a really exciting, versatile, kind of like a hybrid linebacker edge player. You mentioned the closing speed, the pursuit. He is special when it comes to he sees a play happening, he triggers downhill and closes on the quarterback or the ball carrier, what have you, in an instant. He's just so good. I think he's a spark plug player for a defense where he's going to really energize everybody around him. I think you can line him up and rush him off the edge at times. I think you can line him up off the ball. He's the perfect type of player for some of these hybrid defenses these days that are kind of taking over the NFL, where you have guys coming as blitzers from every different angle on different downs, and the offense, the quarterback just never knows where the pressure is going to come from. I think he's the perfect type of player for those defenses. So yeah, he's one of my favorite players in this draft.
Okay, let's go 11 to 20 range. We'll start with Heifetz.
I don't know if I'm cheating. It's funny when I was doing this, just looking at who's going to go where, but I kind of just love Matthew Golden, the receiver from Texas. I love Golden. I mean, you're in the 4.29 40-yard dash. I know that's fake. His mom's a track star, So I kind of think he just has incredible technique getting off the blocks because his 10-yard split for Matthew Golden was like 98th percentile. He did 10 yards in like a second and a half. So I know that he's not really 4.2 anything speed. But generally speaking, if you're even in that range, it's usually like the money ball conversation of where we selling jeans or we playing baseball. Like, oh, it's like these fast guys. Imagine when we teach them to play receiver. And then I think you look at Matthew Golden, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, what if he can catch?
I know exactly. Right.
And I look at Matthew Golden and I'm like, oh, so he is a route runner. He has wiggle. He has tempo. He can find the ball when it's in the air. He plays big. Like he goes and gets the ball. He can catch through contact. He can become a ball carrier quickly. I don't think he's the greatest yards at the catch receiver ever, but he can convert quickly to, okay, the basketball thing of do you close your eyes? You kind of know where everyone is on the court. He kind of does that when he has the ball in his hands. And also he can return kicks. And I'm like, on top of all that, most importantly, Matthew Golden was clutch. Like he was the guy for that Texas team when they needed a play. And you look at all that together, and the through line for that to me is, I think Matthew Golden just, all those skills together, I just feel like the game goes a little slower for him, which you just never hear or think about when you hear 4.29 speed. So even if you call it 4.4, I don't care. That speed combined with all these like little things you usually hear about receivers that, oh, well, it's 4.5, 4.6 speed, but he can do all this. I just feel like Matthew Golden, I don't think I want him on my fantasy team, but I absolutely think he's like an excellent number 2 receiver going forward.
Yeah, I think the thing you're talking about there is kind of the Xavier Worthy conversation, because there's a reason why Worthy went behind other guys, because he wasn't the complete receiver. And then you see Kansas City get really creative with him. And I know I've talked about this before, but like everybody was losing their minds week 1 of the NFL watching him being like, how do you let, and it's like, well, he wasn't the most complete. And I think there are a lot of dudes that are just incredibly flashy and they're off the charts numbers wise. You just don't know if they're the most complete receivers, because a lot of times in college and high school, they can just rely on that speed the whole time. So they don't have to worry about the rest of it. But it does feel like he has been throughout the pre-draft process, somebody that has become everybody's favorite receiver outside of Travis Hunter. All right, DK, what do you got?
I went with Jahad Campbell, the linebacker edge rusher from Alabama. I just feel like it's hard to see him not being a productive, good player on a defense wherever he ends up, whether that's coming off the edge as a pure pass rusher or maybe doing a little bit of both, lining up, in the secondary or whatever, in the second level. I like this guy because he's really long, he's really twitchy, really explosive. He has a nose for the football. I mean, he had 117 tackles last year, 65 stops, according to PFF, which was second in the FBS. So he's always around the ball, has really good feel for, sifting through the trash and finding the football. And I think he has really untapped potential as just a pure edge rusher. He was recruited as a 5-star edge rush guy to Alabama, kind of got stuck behind a bunch of really good pass rushers, a bunch of first round style pass rushers there, and so kind of just decided to play a different position. He offers that hybrid skill set, but I think he could be really good both as a linebacker and as an edge rusher, whatever he ends up doing, or maybe he does a little bit of both at the next level. And if you see him, he kind of has the physique of like a Myles Garrett. He's not quite as big as Myles Garrett, but I'm like, this guy is just a rare athlete playing defense. So I really like him.
I'll go with Tyler Warren. I think it's insane Kelly has him 19th in his mock draft.
I think he's going to end up going higher than that. Yeah. I think he'll go top 10 probably.
What's your hesitation?
Well, I think my hesitation is the history of tight ends in the first round is pretty grim in terms of like the return on investment for a lot of teams. If you look at first round tight end, like some of the best tight ends in the NFL are all like second rounders and lower. And then, so I think there's that. I think the fact that he never tested in this pre-draft process, we don't really know exactly how fast he is. That could throw teams off a little bit. The tight end position, generally speaking, is just not considered a premium position. And I think he's still a work in progress a little bit as a blocker. So I personally do believe he will go high. And I think I've got him in my final mock draft, which is going to publish tomorrow. I've got him going to the Colts at 14. So I guess a little bit higher, but he is one of the quote unquote blue chip players in this class, in my opinion. It's just a matter of whether teams see tight end as a huge difference making position.
Okay. So the last third essentially here of the first round, Heifetz, give us a name.
I feel like I'm cheating here, but I also just think of Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Like and this is kind of similar to Matthew Golden, so maybe I'm cheating, but I feel like Ibuka's funny to me because I don't think anyone thinks Egbuka will be a superstar, but I have yet to find anyone who thinks Egbuka will fail in the NFL. And we don't have that term like prototypical number 2 receiver. Like we just talk about like a prototypical number 1. Ibuka's a prototypical number 2. Like he could block. I think he's a power slot. He's versatile. He can do anything. And I'm such a sucker a sap for all like the intangible stories. I love that he was a 5-star recruit who was going to all these guys transfer to a better high school to get better offers. And he was like, I want to stay with my teammates. I want to ride or die with these guys. I'm such a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for him returning to Ohio State and getting the championship. So maybe I'm a total sap, but to the point of your question of like, if this guy fails, who would you be shocked? I would be shocked if Ibuka didn't make it.
Yeah,
oh no, that's a terrible response. Oh no,
no,
long
no.
pause. Oh no,
heavy sigh.
I'm with you because I think it's the floor part of it, but he also feels like he's lost in all of these other high profile Ohio State prospect names.
Yeah,
over the last few years, and from the jump, I don't know. It's almost like people got bored with how steady he was, so he's just not talked about like the rest of these guys. I went defensive side of the football. I'm going to South Carolina, one of my favorite units to watch play all season long, and that's Eamon Worry, who, look, he's in every single play. He's disrupting everything. He might not even go in the first round, but he runs a 4.38. It was at the combine. It wasn't a pro day 40 time, and I think he's a nasty dude. On top of whether he's getting in to break up passes, I wouldn't even call it like run support, like sometimes just absolutely selling out and blowing up something you're trying to do on the sidelines. He was somebody when you watch South Carolina games, and there was a lot of guys that get really excited about on the defensive side of the football, but he was just, it felt like constantly being involved and a presence throughout. So look, I don't even know if he goes in the first round. I just can't imagine watching him and playing and having that mentality and then him just sucking in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he will go in the first round because he is truly, actually, literally, maybe one of the most athletic safeties ever. According to some of his testing times, his relative athletic score, he's probably the most athletic player at his position they've ever measured, and he's big, long. I like how he brings kind of that intimidation factor that over the middle of the field. You don't have a ton of safeties in the NFL nowadays that have that intimidating sort of presence. So he's definitely a guy I really like. I think he could be a guy that the Seahawks look at too in the first round.
All right. Do you have one for us, Danny?
I do. I'm going back to the running back well here, Omarion Hampton. I just feel like there's no way that he is bad in the NFL. He's just going to be a rock solid, high volume, tackle breaking running back for whatever team picks him in that 20 to, like the last third of the first round. I think maybe Denver takes him in the first round and he just turns into the next Mark Ingram for Sean Payton. Explosive accelerator, which I love about him. Like he'll sit there and get stopped and then just explode through a hole, through a gap, explode past like a big group of guys. He breaks a ton of tackles. He pinballs kind of through the line, just like really hard to bring him down. I think he's reliable in the passing game. He's not necessarily an elite pass catcher, but he's good enough to be on swing passes, screens, things like that. And yeah, he's just an all-around back with a ton of experience, ton of carries. And I think, other than like injury or whatever, I think there's no way this guy's going to be bad in the NFL.
Let's be negative. Same exercise, same tiers of picks here. What would be the dumbest thing a team could do in the top 10? We'll start with Heifetz.
So I'm pretty dumb. So do you want like really dumb, or how dumb do you want? Like the dumbest truly?
Let's say it's a possibility that this could happen. Did I ruin your idea?
No, you're
there?
good. Because I was thinking about what's the thing that would get flamed the most, and I was like, the Giants taking Ashton Genty. Like, I just think that's the funniest possible thing is after the Saquon wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles, if the Giants took Ashton Genty over Abdul Carter, I think that is the dumbest thing that can happen. Because it wouldn't be shocking, right? Like, he's such a good player, but also, I would be really dumb.
I totally get what you're saying, but I'll just, as an aside, to continue what I said before the season, and it looked dumber as the season played out, but the principle's still the same. Is what was the point of the Giants having Saquon Barkley? So good for him, and I know it's embarrassing for Giants fans and Eagles fans in your life are giving you shit the entire time, and he did something that is pretty rare in today's game, being a running back that was dictating wins in the playoffs. That's really not how any of these teams are built anymore. So I am defensive about Joe Shane and their decision to go, why are we paying a running back a ton of money when we're not really even that good? As embarrassing as it may be, spending the pick on him and seeing ownership come in and be like, it's really going to suck if we see him in the Eagles. Like, I understand all the punchlines. The fundamental point for me has never changed, that they shouldn't have been paying Saquon Barkley for where they were as a franchise.
I mean, imagine if they had kept him and then they win one more game, maybe, and then everyone just makes fun of them for paying the running back.
Yeah, well, I guess. All right, so if they take Genty, then people are going to find a way to shit on him all over again. Yeah, it probably will be what happens. All right, Kelly, what do you got?
I look at there's some mocks and this is actually turning into sort of like a common thing. Jackson Dart in the top 10 to the Saints specifically, I just feel like has just disaster written all over it. Not that I don't think he could end up developing into a good quarterback down the line. I think he's just one of those players that is going to need some time to develop. He's going to need some time to, it's just a projection right now, whether he can learn to be in a progression passing game, go through his reads. Right now, the offense that we saw at Ole Miss is just, one read, get the ball out or go scramble and kind of be a playmaker. So I just think there's a ton of projection that goes into Jackson Dart's game. And I just don't think the Saints are really a team right now that is constructed to give a quarterback a great chance of success, especially a quarterback like Jackson Dart. So it's like they have issues on their offensive line. The receiver core is barren at this point. Assuming Olave is, I don't know what's going to happen with Olave going forward. I don't know. They just don't seem like a team right now that can drop a quarterback in there, especially a developmental type quarterback like Jackson Dart, and have success in the NFL. So I think that one to me is just has disaster written all over it.
With the Carr injury, you're seeing this happen a little bit where you've seen Shador in there. You just brought up Jackson. I got to be honest with you, this feels very dismissive of Spencer Rattler.
Sure. Maybe he's the future there. Who knows?
The dumbest thing already happened. It's the Patriots ending up with the 4th pick instead of the 1st pick.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the years for it to break out this way, and there's a team that is going to take a quarterback in front of them, so you're still thinking, okay. And then it's like, no, I just don't envision any scenario where Hunter or Carter are available with that 4th pick. And Will Campbell was really good at LSU. I don't know if you're taking somebody that's going to anchor and you're expecting, if you're taking a left tackle 4th overall with his resume, you're expecting like not just anchoring the left side of your offensive line for 10 years. You're talking about somebody that you can game plan with because he's so dominant. And I don't know. I feel like the highest his hype ever was the summer going into 24. Really. And I'm not like knocking it. It just feels like this is, if you're at 4, you really hope you're not drafting for need. And because they won that last game of the season, that's what could happen here. Okay, 11 to 20. Dumbest scenarios. Who wants to go first?
I can throw one out here.
Yeah, go for it, DK.
This is kind of a homer pick here because I'm a Seahawks fan, but Seahawks not taking offensive linemen in the 1st round is going to, I can already tell, I'm already getting kind of mad about it.
Already?
Yeah. Just like preemptive anger is forming in my stomach right now because they didn't do anything to basically augment or like fix their offensive line. They had a bunch of guys come in. They ended up not signing any of them in free agency. And now they've kind of painted themselves into a corner a little bit, I think, in having to take an offensive line. I mean, they've had one of the worst offensive lines over the last, it feels like a decade. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I can't remember the last time the Seahawks had a good offensive line. And we're going into this next season with a quarterback in Sam Darnold who is pressure sensitive. It's really going to help him a lot if the offensive line is giving him protection, helping him, have that extra beat to get the throw off. And I just feel like Darnold, especially among quarterbacks, is one of those guys that if pressure's coming consistently, it's going to not go well for him. So, I'm already getting mad that the Seahawks didn't take an offensive lineman when they pick first.
Okay. Heifetz?
The dumbest possible thing that could happen in the entire draft is if the Falcons just take Shedeur Sanders, they just take another quarterback, just add Penix, Kirk Cousins, just take another quarterback, just cats in the wall. Yeah, it's always Sunny style. Just keep adding them. No, I know that won't really happen, but I will lose my mind if the Falcons don't take a defensive lineman. I mean, this is a team that's dead last in sacks in the last 10 years, last 5 years, last 3 years. The whole Falcons collapse, blown lead meme. It's just the Falcons not having a pass rush. They didn't have a pass rush in the Super Bowl. They blew to Tom Brady. Atlanta's not had a great pass rusher since John Abraham, 15 years ago. I believe the Falcons don't have anyone who's had 7 sacks post-COVID. It's been 4 or 5 seasons since the Falcons even had anyone get to 8 sacks in a year. And so if Atlanta does not take a pass rusher, in this draft, I'll lose my mind. But the funniest thing would be if they just took a quarterback again.
I'll make mine quicker so we can get to the last. I think Ezraku being available at 21 would be a mistake. All right. The edge guy out of Boston College. I think he's just a little off the radar in comparison because it's such a stacked edge class. And maybe if we just stay on the topic and not specific to him, but when I go through the mocks and look at the stuff and I just think about how I feel about some of the guys, I'm like, I think I'd be okay taking the 7th edge guy and instead of, because you can kind of mess with yourself a little bit and be like, we're getting the 7th best guy at this position. Well, if there was a draft where you should still feel good about it in the late 20s, I would rather do that than maybe the 4th option at tackle here. And there's very specifically like some positions here where there's a fear of like not having anybody available in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think some of the offensive lineman stuff is certainly true with a lot of that, but there's just so many edge guys. You could maybe even just claim defensive line overall if we're getting to some of the big dudes that are going to be going in the 20s as well. I don't know that I would let that bother me if you feel like you're getting the 7th graded guy at a position, because I think that specific position, there's just so much talent in this. All right, I'll go first on 21 to 32. If Milroe goes in the first round, I will question that team's scouting.
Yeah, what if someone trades into the first round to take Milroe? They're giving up picks to get back in there. Yeah, I had that one circled as well. I think Heifetz and I are both probably higher on Milroe than most people, but even I would be a little bit concerned if you trade up into the first round or take him in the first round, just because, again, that's just such a long development arc for him that you have to kind of bake in. I know he's an awesome athlete, but just not going to be ready to go right away.
I loved having Quincy Avery on not that long ago talking about Jalen Hurts, of like Jalen Hurts was a really limited guy coming out of college, and it's okay to admit it. And I love that Quincy, because that first year when they were winning games, I was still kind of like, I don't really know how much he's doing though. And Quincy, who has worked with him, who's his guy, was like, well, that first year, like this wasn't the full palette. Even though it is odd that after a Super Bowl win, it feels like people are kind of dissing him all over again. Like whatever he is, like it's okay. It's a bit like I'm going to Bill Simmons you guys here and find a way to talk about Jason Tatum. It's okay that Jason Tatum's not the best player in the world. It's going to be okay, right? And it's okay that Jalen Hurts is probably not really like a consistent top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But on top of everything else that they do, I would be shocked. And I would say I'm surprised about Hurts and who he's become, but I would be absolutely shocked if Milroe is somebody who's starting like multiple seasons, the guy that gets another contract. So cut this one. And if I end up being wrong, but I just did not see, a guy at Alabama that I would be like, hey, let's trade into the first and risk all of our jobs. Because I mean, the first year the offensive coordinator has him, if you're actually like taking him in the first round, that guy, I hope he's renting.
I'm going to piggyback off of the Hurts discussion. And the dumbest thing to me that's going to happen in that range of the first round is one of these very talented, and I don't have anyone specifically in mind, but this happens every year where someone who I think the draft consensus really likes ends up falling a little bit. One of the beloved draft Twitter people is going to fall to 32 to the Eagles, and the Eagles are going to take them. And we're all going to be really excited that the Eagles got a great player again.
Yeah, like Derek Harmon goes to the Eagles.
Yeah, like it's going to be someone that everyone loves, and for whatever reason, whether maybe it's like some injury red flag or something that we don't really know about yet, he falls to 32, and the Eagles are like, all right, well, I'll take him, and he's going to turn into like a Pro Bowl player every year.
Okay, that is perfect. Because you're basically saying no matter what happens, everyone is going to like the Eagles pick.
Yes.
All right. So Heifetz, we need one more from you, correct?
Yeah, I just think a team like Saints, Giants, Browns, take your pick, trading back up for Tyler Shuck in the first round. Like if the Eagles trade back 5 spots and still get Derek Harmon, but then like the Browns, Giants, Eagles get the Tyler Shuck with that 32nd pick just to get the 5th-year option. I know Todd McShay loves him, my University of Richmond brethren with Todd and Mensch, but I know Jeremiah and Todd came on this week and talked about how the age stuff didn't bother them with Tyler Shuck. It bothers me. I don't like that Tyler Shuck was in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence. Tyler Shuck is the oldest quarterback prospect in this draft. He is the most injured and the least experienced. But I also genuinely think that on some teams' boards, he will be 2nd or 3rd. and probably third. And so I think that if the Saints go up and get Dart maybe at the Viking spot at 24th, I think there are some teams that might be looking at Shuck with that Eagles spot at 32. And I will not be a fan.
What kind of grade do you have on Alan Bowman? Must be even worse. All right, give me a player you are on an island about. Everybody thinks you're stupid for thinking this.
I was gonna say Heifetz and I think both are pretty lockstep about Jalen Milroe. Not necessarily super high on him, but we just want, like, of all the quarterbacks that you could take a risk on, I think I would probably take the guy who can run a 4.3 and has a rocket arm. Maybe we can figure out how to teach him to play quarterback later. I was going to say this one's kind of more in the weeds, but Bashal Tutin, the Virginia Tech running back, he gives me the same sort of exciting feeling I had when I was watching Devon Achane in college in terms of just his blazing speed, turbocharged acceleration, ability to access, gaps in the line that like very few other running backs can have. He's more of like a third round type of guy, but
Talladega.
Yeah, it's just, I love when the cars go by. Like, just the speed that he has is so fun to watch. So he's kind of like turning into my guy, I think I'm realizing.
My island player is, that Yogi Berra phrase, like, it's so crowded, no one goes there anymore. I didn't know I was on an island until I looked around. I think I'm the last person left who thinks Travis Hunter is going to play full-time receiver, full-time cornerback, and be incredible at both at the same time. I genuinely think Travis Hunter makes an all-pro team on both sides of the ball, and I feel like everyone else thinks this is not possible, and I don't know why.
I love it though. Like, I always think of like the Ohtani conversation in the beginning. It's just so this thing that everybody said nobody could ever do. This guy's going to do it, and he's not just going to do it. He's going to do it at this ridiculous level. I do like to think that there's some people that were told too early on in the process, like, you can't do these things. And what Hunter just did proves that, again, I've heard the Champ Bailey stuff. I mean, if you go through the Charles Woodson numbers, you're like, that was not the Travis Hunter experience. Okay. There's no comparison for number of snaps and what we're talking about Hunter doing or what a team is asking of him. I would hate to think he would be denied that opportunity, but maybe I'm wrong for looking at the assumptions as being just a little too wide of like, no, you can't do it in the NFL. There's no way that you would hold up. There's no chance. And if you're going to take a guy this high, the big contract that you're going to end up giving him, because it'd be kind of shocked if he's not off a rookie deal, getting a big extension. Would you be jeopardizing that? What if he can actually just do something that we've all been conditioned to believe that can't be done? And Ohtani is the exact same way. It was always, there's no way, like we were told, pitchers can never hit because it takes too much time prepping yourself. You can't get the ABs. You can't figure out, there's no way you can hit at a high level in Major League Baseball because pitching is going to take up too much of your time. Or I'm going to win an MVP. Now, granted, because of the Tommy John, he hasn't pitched consistently the way he did when he first came up. So I would love, even though Travis is 100% insanely wrong for saying what he's doing is more impressive than what Ohtani's doing, I would hate to have him with a program, maybe I should just say system, that would deny us the opportunity to see if he could do the unthinkable.
I think the Browns, if they take him, are going to give him a shot.
I love it. Okay. We're building towards it. We'll finish with it. War Room Fallers, where I put both guests in the war room with options for a team, and you have to make your case in the room here. All right. So let's start with Arizona. 16th pick in the first round. Tyler Warren somehow still on the board. Now you're saying, hey, Ryan, weren't you telling the nation Trey McBride is a baller and we should be paying attention? Yeah, I understand. But I'm also willing to think, could they get creative here? Jotty Brown, corner out of Texas. Now, I think Heifetz has him 23rd in the first round, so he's probably going to be in the room being like, dude, this is a reach at 16. And Genty, for whatever reason, is still there at 16. So let's start with Danny Kelly.
Oh man, this is tough. I probably honestly would just go with Genty in this case because he is one of the few very top tier blue chip players in this class. James Conner isn't going to be around forever for them. Obviously they took Trey Benson last year, but he, in the third round, but he wasn't necessarily doing anything all that special for them. So I think I just got to go with Genty. I mean, I feel like anytime anyone asks me about Genty, I'm just going to say Genty because he is just such a special player in this class.
My only disagreement with Danny Kelly there is it's not tough at all. I am going to do an Ashton Genty impersonation and just barrel through everyone in the draft room to hand the Ashton Genty card in for Arizona because I like Tyler Warren a lot. I kind of lowercase L love Tyler Warren. But when you just handed Trey McBride this massive contract, it's like I am not going to let Trey Benson being drafted in the third round last year stand between me and Ashton Genty being an iconic Arizona Cardinal. So I am going to do whatever it takes to get Genty at 16 for Arizona.
Okay, let's make it weird. All right, last one in all these scenarios we've thrown out here. You're the Tennessee Titans. You've done the work. You've made the phone calls. You've looked at the notebooks. You've accrued the frequent flyer miles. You don't care that Will Levis's marketability is probably going to take a bit of a hit here. You're ready. You're ready to take Cam Ward, but God, there's a couple guys on your staff. You're like, who was the steal of the draft last year was Bo Nix. So now you're Sean Payton. And you're like, why is Tennessee calling? Why is Tennessee calling me? And then somebody from Tennessee says, do you want to dance? And they offer up, like, we want Bo Nix. We will give you this year's first, the number 1 overall pick in this draft, and 2 more firsts for Bo Nix. And to add into the scenario here, Kirk Cousins has just purchased a home in Cherry Creek. I do not know if it's a condo or a single family residence.
I would say no to that. I would be not doing that if I was the Titans. If I was the Broncos, I would 100% do that. Is that what you're asking? Whose side? Yeah.
Yeah, you're working for Denver.
3 firsts for, 100% would do that.
As a matter of, as a policy, I try not to imagine what's going on in Sean Payton's head too much. But I have to say, the Broncos take that 7 ways. It's like 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. You take the first, and then you have Cam Ward first. You then trade that pick again to the Giants because you're Sean Payton and you're going to turn. Right. And honestly, I think Sean Payton, you trade from 1 to 3, then you trade again down from 3, get out of the Admiral Carter pick, and you take Shedeur Sanders like 20th, and you just sit there and you have 6 firsts over the next 2 years. And yeah, I'm doing that.
It sounds like in a vacuum that you would trade Bo Nix for Cam Ward.
I would, because I think that Bo Nix was good, and I don't want to denigrate what Bo Nix did last year. I mean, he would win Rookie of the Year, I think, in most other seasons.
By the way, we're all kind of having the same Bo Nix conversation the last year.
I called him Boomer Bo last year. I was pretty negative about the whole thing, but I think the reality is Sean Payton can make it work with multiple quarterbacks. And I would just go ahead and trust that Sean Payton with a lesser quarterback and 5 other first-round picks, or 2 other first-round picks, whatever. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bet on Sean Payton, not bet on Bo Nix.
Okay. All right. I love it. I want to make sure that everybody gets all of this stuff because our guy Craig couldn't make this. It was just, I don't know if I could go 3 wide. So I apologize to Craig because everybody loves Craig so much. But the Ringer NFL Draft Show, make sure you check out the pod throughout the week. Go back, watch some of the other episodes. They're live tonight in Chicago. And then, of course, gearing up for the fantasy football season, the Ringer Fantasy Football Show as well. I have heard from the Chuck Bednarik family. I have apologized on your behalf.
Yes.
Dude, people... I've watched so many pronunciations. That one doesn't even register. I said, Chuck Bednarik, and a lot of Eagles fans.
So it's 60s. Bednarik. Got it.
There's an award named after the guy, man.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about. I'll send you guys some pictures because when I was listening, I was like, "Ooh."
Wait, look, I thought you were kidding. Are you serious?
That the family reached out to me?
Yeah.
I am kidding. Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
God, I'm so stupid.
Hey, any of us that do this for a living. There's so many times where you're like, there's still a couple Euro guys in the NBA, but what'll mess me up is it would be League Pass, where I'm like, I thought I had this guy's name for 2 years, and I was like, this guy's doing this, and then I realized I'm like, that guy was actually wrong. I think I've pronounced Zubac's name 7 different things since he's been in the league, but that also is a big factor in most improved, because if I was voting Zubac's, which I did, for most improved in the NBA, it makes sense because not only did his game get better, more and more people actually learned his true pronunciation. And that to me is the journey of somebody that stepped up what their game was. Have a great show in Chicago tonight. I won't be there, obviously, and I didn't think you'd expect me to be there. So I think we're all doing what we thought we'd be doing.
What are we going to, we saved a seat for you in the front row. What are we going to do with that seat now?
Yeah, the guest of honor.
We'll give it to the Bednarik family.
That's exactly what you should do. There's got to be a cousin or a niece in there somewhere. All right, thanks. Enjoy, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life Advice, the email address, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. I hope everybody's fired up for a great Tuesday. Day hasn't even started for me yet. I'm just on top of the world. Got the power washer showing up here a little bit later. I'll let everybody know, and in case you have any power washing advice. I mean, they gave me a quote, and I was like, you're doing the inside of the windows too? I'm like, man, that seems like a good deal. I mean, luckily this will post after they bill me, but we'll see.
So,
Ceruti's like ready to go.
No, this is great. This isn't a zag at all. I don't do a lot of yard work. I used to mow the lawn. I don't really do it anymore. It's just kind of a pain. I don't like dealing with grass stuff. What else? I don't do the leaves. I don't do the leaves. I don't do the weeding. Yeah, I'm just not, I don't know. I'm a little bit of an indoor cat when it comes to that stuff. But I will tell you, the best piece of equipment that I've ever bought for anything is a power washer. It is fucking exhilarating. It's I mean, it's so versatile. You could do like your pavers, you could do the side of the house if you're careful, you could do, fences and stuff, and it's like a little bit of like ASMR. It's like so soothing to see it. So if you're one of those guys that you're looking to buy what equipment, I use that thing all the time. So shout out to power washing.
Wargon, where are you with the maintenance stuff?
Hey guys, I live in an apartment building, dude. I don't do anything.
He's got a guy.
Yeah. Just hope that my super takes care of everything.
Right, but if you're renting, we're not even talking about HOA. That's part of the rent, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We don't even pay for power in my building, which is great.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm blown away
living the
by
dream.
That. Yeah. All right. Yeah. For anybody asking why I'm not doing it on my own, I don't want to store ladders. I would need some serious ladder work. I just don't understand. Like, I think these guys are going to get here and go, hey, we screwed up on the price. I'm guaranteeing it that somebody goes, there's no way we can do this. But I gave them the dimensions. I think we'll see. We'll work with them,
Quote the quote. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. If I got a guy that's his own little small business and I think he went too low. So we're going to see how it goes.
Okay.
I like to be fair, stern, but fair. All right.
Maybe
let's
give
get
him
to
a
some
tip.
emails. I could. Yeah. The tip thing's a little weird though on everything. Cause now I feel like everybody kind of wants one. Like, should I have tipped for guys to have cleaned the grills because they had to redo the holes to get the gas out through the grills?
I would say that's not a tippable thing, but I don't know. I have found myself Googling so many different activities, being like, am I supposed to tip here now? Like, what's the etiquette? And of course you go on Reddit. You get every answer you want. Whatever you want to find, they'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to take care of it. They were looking at me a little bit at the end, and then I thought, oh, maybe they expected to tip here. I'm like, what can you pay for in your house that isn't supposed to be tipped anymore? But we're going to take care of them.
Good.
All right, here we go. Presumptuous wedding guest, 5'11", 220. Gym stats, 225, 315 deadlift. Usually leg press, 275 for reps instead of squat. Currently training for my first marathon in August. Wargon, any tips?
Marathon's out of my league. I would never do a full. I'm
never
on death's doorstep after the half. And it's not like twice as hard. It's exponentially harder.
You're never going to do it.
No.
Okay. NBA player comp. Jason Maxiel, an undersized forward, but good to contribute a couple points a game and will work hard on the boards. Great reference. We love the Bearcats on this pod. My fiance and I are both in our 30s and planning our wedding August 25. We sent out the save the date cards last month and have already had people RSVPing for the big day. Exclamation point. My fiance's played on a co-ed softball team with a number of her friends from high school and college for a few summers now, and most of them will be invited. This just screams of Chicago to me right now. But, just good stock all around. Every time I think of co-ed softball and everybody having a good time, I always think of Chicago. I know they used to do it in Southie, but I'm sure they still do it in Southie, to be honest with you. I remember when friends started moving there and they felt like they were like, yeah, we're out. It's like the pre-burbs. One of her teammates who is new to the team this year, that was the end of my softball theorizing. Let's call her Susan. She texted my fiance this weekend, quote, "Hey, I was looking for my RSVP card, but it doesn't look like I've gotten one yet." She is not invited. Being newer to the team, this is not someone that we've gotten to know outside of playing softball on Sundays, so she's a bit of a wild card. My fiance's initial reaction was panic, followed by a suggestion of just inviting her to the wedding.
Yep.
She's also concerned about the talk of the wedding happening during the softball season, knowing that not everyone is going to be invited. I do not want to just add someone to our guest list for sake of avoiding possible awkward conversation, and our venue does have a limit on capacity for the event, as most do, I'd imagine. How would you respond to the initial text of how should we proceed moving forward in the event this situation happens again? Thanks, love the pod. How about telling her she's not invited? Wait, really?
Yep.
Do tell.
Yeah, so I got married, right after I think you left or something. It was kind of early when I started working on Will's show. And
it was right when I had left, and then I'd come back, and that was another thing. And Ceruti and I talked off the air, and I was like, "Hey, I was just there. I was dealing with this stuff. Is there any chance? Like, do you care if I don't come right back to Connecticut?" And everybody's pissed at me still. Yep. And I do kind of understand. I'm not defending myself, although it sounds like I was doing it. The problem is Ceruti gave me such a hardcore sign off on like I totally understand.
I did not care. Like I really didn't care.
Right.
I really.
But
don't
people do care, and I understand why they do. And I'll admit, as I've aged, a tinge of regret.
It was a good wedding. Yeah, we had.
I heard it was awesome.
But that's not the story. The story is essentially that I invited. So I had started working on a new show. It was Will's show. I had known Will for a little while. Bubba was a guy I'd worked with for a while over there. Who else? Ray Netchie, our old producer Ray. There's a group around there, right? And then there were some new people on the show. Nuno, Liam, who used to produce Mike and Mike, who I knew but didn't know super well, but had gotten to know well. But by the time you're sending these wedding invites out months in advance. Like I didn't know Liam as well then, so he didn't get the invite. He and Nuno did not get the invite. They're the only two people on Will's show that weren't invited. And in classic Will Kane fashion, he brought this up on the show, on the air, and we just talked it out. And it was wildly uncomfortable for your boy. And I love Will. That was not one of my favorite Will Kane moments. People can insert whatever jokes they want here, but
I think it was part of it is he thought both were not citizens, right?
He was concerned with the border pretty early. Yeah, I mean, technically, Liam is English. Nuno Portuguese. So yeah, there was some, who knows? But yes, so it was uncomfortable. It's probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been on air doing anything was when Will, out of nowhere, basically was like, Ceruti, they're not invited. What's up with that? And then I had to essentially explain why. And I don't think they cared, but I felt bad. And I literally talked to my wife, Maddie. I was like, should we invite them? Like, I feel like a dick now because I am friendly with them. Like, I'm close with them.
You can't invite them after, though.
They didn't want the invite. I didn't think they didn't want the pity invite. And honestly, I respected that. I wouldn't want the pity invite either. So, but this is a different scenario. This person, like, I actually understand this. And if you want to avoid the confrontation, you also have to understand, like, 20% of people likely turn down wedding invites. If you know this person's going to go, it's another gift for you. Is the easy answer just inviting her? Like, I think it kind of is.
Wow. I did not expect that at all. By the way, just to add to the ESPN thing, there's not a lot going on in that part of the country. And so going away parties were huge. We're like, who else
West Hartford?
Who else is not getting renewed? Ooh, that'll be a good night at Cuvée.
Yeah, the bar taco.
Yeah, right. I remember looking forward to my going away party. And then once it was time for me to go away, all I wanted to do was just go away. So I probably just went out by myself.
Yeah, we didn't throw you one, I don't think, right? You probably
I didn't want
a private one. Yeah.
Well, I had left and then I had to come back. And so I was like back again. I was in Connecticut a lot longer than I thought I was. And then I was just like, I don't want to be that guy. Because there was a little gathering at the Mexican place across the street with middle management, which was not a bender by any chance. And I think I wanted to leave that pretty quickly, although I appreciated the effort from some involved. So I don't want to sound dismissive, but that was like, I think we had a margarita and some chips. And I was like, okay, We're good.
Best of luck, dude.
Yeah. Because I felt like they had to do it.
Totally.
And I was totally fine to be like, we don't have to do anything. Because
I
Yeah.
don't think this is going to make you mad or change any way you think, but that is like the least effort place. The across the street, like if you didn't mean anything to anyone, they took you across the street to the taco place because it was just a bad place and it was the most convenient spot.
Absolutely. Not offended. That's 100% what happened. And why I was even more like, okay, I'm ready. But then it was always the hope that, especially like, hey, who's gone? And then it was just an excuse. So my point is there aren't a lot of those moments. That's why the going away parties are such a huge deal. Because like, at least we'll have some sort of excuse to pretend we're having fun, even though some people are going away not based on their own decision. So sometimes those could even get weirder, right? It's like, I don't want to leave. No, I don't know that ever happened at last call. But the wedding thing, it's kind of assumed like, hey, board up, you're pushing buttons, you're over here, you're cutting sound. You get us some Padres highlights late last night. Like, of course, I'm in the mix for Ceruti's wedding. But I do think that it's always a bit weird. Is like if there's not a lot of a relationship there, just because we're in the same room for 3 or 4 hours a day. I don't know, but there's back to the email, this presumption that we're all in this together. Like, how could you leave me out? And I think it's very specific. I know this happens a lot in a lot of different work environments, but very specific to ESPN. That might be the social highlight of the year for a lot of people, especially for a guy like Ceruti. Who's Wargon. You were not invited, right? When you were at ESPN, when Ceruti was there?
No. Me and Ceruti weren't close then.
Yeah. Later
Some
on.
would say we didn't even know each other. So
Fair. What about you, Wargon? Oh, wait a minute. Ceruti's not done. Sorry.
Well, I'm just going to bring up this point too. The person asking, where's my wedding RSVP? That person fucking sucks too. You got to be kidding me.
Thank you.
So I'll just
Finally.
leave you guys with that. It's your turn, Wargon.
So we had some friends who like tiered out all their people. Like, these are my tier 1 friends. They're all getting invited. Tier 2, probably getting invited.
Like a
tier
draft
3,
board. You're
it's a
not
draft
reaching
board,
for a
basically.
tight
Yeah,
end.
they got the big board. We didn't really do that. We sort of did 1 and 2 got invited, 3s and 4s. We'll talk to you later. I don't know. I would never ask. And I think this is like, I think you tell them like, sorry, you're not invited. I think you go right into like the uncomfortableness as like a punishment for them asking.
I changed my answer, Wargon. That's a great call.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's such an asshole move. Like, even if you feel hard done by it or whatever, you don't go. Maybe somebody tipped them off. Be like, oh, you had to be invited. Like, you just asked them. Maybe it got lost
that's
in the
the
mail.
problem,
You
yeah.
know, and it's like maybe that's what happened, and you really don't want to break their heart twice. But I would, if it was my best friend and I didn't get invited to the wedding, I don't even know if I'd ask. I'd be like, I guess just didn't make the cut this time. Sorry. You know.
If it was your best friend, I think it'd be a little weird, but I do think I know you well enough that you would just be like, all right, cool.
Shit.
Like,
yeah.
I don't have to deal with
Guess
it.
numbers were tight.
Ceruti nailed this, though. Anyone that's going like, where's my invite? You actually had to make a decision. You didn't talk this out with anyone else. You didn't talk it out with yourself and be like, is there a chance I wasn't invited? Well, if I can't definitively answer that, well, I guess I should just ask them where it is. So this is a very aggressive person. And sometimes these people win, but I think they need to experience some losses more based on how hard they push it. And I don't know if she's doing this, but a lot of people who are this aggressive just assume nobody wants to make things awkward. So they'll give in to avoid the awkwardness, to exactly what you're talking about here in the email. And I'm sick of those people winning all the time. There's a difference between being persistent and, hey, it's better to get a no than to never ask. Like, a lot of fundamental things that I think are really important, whether it's relationships or in your career. But she's on your fucking softball team, okay? It's not like you've worked with her forever. It's not like it's a cousin that's always been in the mix that you maybe don't like, but you feel like, hey, I got invited to theirs. I have to invite it. Like, everybody knows that's ever gone through this. There's some deals that you're making. This is somebody who I would look forward to disappointing. I think you need to change your mentality on this one. And I don't know if you're just going to lose the battle to the wife, but I think what you need to say to your wife is like, why are we letting her win something that we don't want to give her because we're afraid of it being awkward, when she already just dumped an entire topping of awkwardness all over our wedding?
The appropriate response to you not getting invited but being uncertain about the invite is to ask a friend to ask for you, to be like, hey, was so-and-so invited? I'm trying to get a number of who on the softball team is in and out. And if they tell you that she's not invited, then you have your answer. Going directly to the person, you're right. That's kind of like weird narcissist behavior.
Yeah. She needs a loss. And you could give it to her.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have to fight my coworker? Whoa. Gym stats, 5'10", 190, 205 bench, and a poor man's Furkman Korkmaz on the court. I apologize in advance for the length of this story, but I found myself in a strange and unexpected work scenario that calls for a higher level of wisdom than my own. 6 months ago, I switched employers when an opportunity came along and advanced my commercial banking career. Commercial banking, okay, that's important. I live and work in a moderately populated and vaguely southern Midwestern city where business culture is somewhat competitive, but nothing crazy like in the certain coastal cities. Everything's gone great at this new job until about a month ago when some planned remodeling began at our headquarters. A unique aspect of the bank is the large portion of employees, including myself, who work in a communal working space devoid of offices or cubicles. This is a challenge at first, but I've become used to the environment. I would hate that, by the way. Adapting with both a hybrid schedule and the help of private booths and in conference rooms where I can take meetings or sensitive calls. All right, well, you can move around a little bit. Maybe that is great. However, with the recent remodeling, a few longtime employees who were grandfathered into their private office spaces are working in our area until the remodel in theirs is completed. We don't technically have assigned seating, but I, along with coworkers, have taken to certain spots that we work from nearly 100% when in an office. One of the temporarily displaced office folk, let's call him Gary, tends to arrive around 7:45 each morning and work until about 4:15, while I, on the other hand, am more of an 8:30 to 5 guy. Uh-oh. Now, Gary and I have had enough interactions to be fairly comfortable around each other, but lately these interactions have begun to revolve around me showing up at around 8:30 and seeing him in my preferred spot at the community table where I sit. At first, I shrugged this off until one day Gary happened to come in late after a dentist appointment, and I had already arrived and sat in my usual seat. Gary seemed to make a face where he came in, but I ignored it, and he didn't say anything. Fast forward a week, and the same scenario plays out again. I come in for the day to see my spot empty and take advantage. Gary comes in, notices, except this time I hear him mumble, "Come on, fuck," as he slides past to an opening between two female employees he does not seem to particularly get along with. The following week, it happens again, but this time he's annoyed enough to say something directly. He tells me it's his preferred spot and that I'm clearly aware of this, and would I please just respect his wishes and let him have it? I gently say I've been in that spot since I got to the bank, and besides, he has his own office. He asks me if I'm serious in a manner that lets me know he is annoyed because he knows the answer. The following week, now only 5 days ago, Gary sends me a calendar invite to lunch for that same day. That was out of the blue and not something Gary or I had done before. I don't know what the meaning of this was, nor did I want to accept the invite, but I unfortunately didn't have anything else on my Outlook calendar, a fact that that Gary could probably see from our shared calendars. Gary and I go to lunch, and it doesn't go well. He tries to be nice, asks how it's been going at the bank. We talk around that for a while until he jumps into the seating arrangement issue. I do love the pointless first act of any conflict. You know, somebody calls you or they meet and you're like, what are we going to spend 5 minutes on that has nothing to do with why this is actually happening? But anyway, yeah. I think we just get to the second act, folks. All right, here's the deal. You're in my fucking seat, right? So that's what's going to happen here. So wait a minute. So we talk around it. He says he wants me to respect his position and preferences as a tenured employee of the bank. I let him know I understand where he's coming from, but that specific seat is strategically beneficial. It allows me to work with my assistant who sits in the next seat over. When the waiter comes, Gary hesitates when asked if it's one check or two before ultimately saying two, thanks. We both pay and walk back to the bank, though I slow up when I fake receiving a phone call. The following day, I receive another calendar invite from Gary, though this time the title is simply Settlement, and I have no idea what the reference is. The date is for Friday, April 25th. That's this Friday, with a note that reads, quote, subject to change per recipient's schedule. And the location he sets is the little-used rooftop patio area we have access to from the break room. A little later, I run into Gary coming out of the bathroom. He sees me and jabs a finger into my shoulder and asks if I'm going to reply to his invitation. I explain that I'm not sure what the invitation is for. Gary seems taken aback by my confusion and pauses before saying, quote, I think you know what it means. We need to figure this out. If that means what you know it means, then I'm down if you are. Let's read that one again. I think you know what it means. We need to figure this out. And if that means what you know it means, then I'm down if you are. Great opportunity to just cut all of his momentum off and be like, are you trying to make out with me, dude? But I'm glad you didn't do that. So either this coming Friday or a more convenient date of my choosing, my coworker wants to fight me to determine who gets to sit at what seat at a communal table at work. Gary's mid-50s, 20-year employee of the bank, and he's a producer. I've also heard he can be an HR nightmare. Sounds like that checks out, which, okay, yes, that makes sense. But this guy has good rapport with senior management and makes the bank a lot of money. I have no idea why he'd be willing to risk something like a lawsuit or arrest over something so trivial, but I'm still left with the question of what to do. I know what you're thinking. Obviously, you don't fight an insane person over seat preferences at work. Further, this should blow over in another couple months when the remodel is complete and Gary returns to his office. But Gary's opinion of others at the bank is important as well, and that gives me pause. He seems both crazy enough to actually try to fist fight me over this issue or bully me if I relent for not being principled enough to stand up for myself. I'm obviously leading towards pacifism, but I'm also shocked and annoyed by this absurd gesture from Gary, and I'm not entirely ruling out just taking it back to the old days to settle it. Oh, saddle up. This is partly because I do have some martial arts training and would not intend to hurt Gary, but merely force him to submit or quit fighting once he realizes beating me is not in the cards. So what do you think? Do I have to fight my coworker? Really long email, kind of worth it though.
Like, just so you know, I am a yellow belt. So do you still want to send out that calendar invite?
Do you want me to respect you tapping out? I'll respect it. But if you don't tap, I'm not going to give up.
No,
I'm not going to relent. You could just let him sit in the fucking chair, man. You know, he's been there 20 years. You've talked about him being important. He is getting there before you. He's been displaced. Your whole thing about it's more convenient for me to sit next to your assistants. Why can't you just ask your two assistants to sit in the chair that he doesn't want to sit in and all of this? Like, I don't really know what this is about. And I actually understand he may be unhinged. It sounds like if he actually wants to fight you on the rooftop, like that's in the corporate world, that's frowned upon. I don't know what's going on here with the younger guy and the chair thing. 10 out of 10 times the older guy that, as you say, is a big time producer. And so even if he's irrational at times and tough to deal with, like he cannot fathom that you're doing this. And so it isn't about the chair anymore. It's about you being like a younger dude that he feels like is trying to fuck with him all the time. I understand that it was your chair before and then it sucks when somebody sits, but maybe I'm being a little too old school in the hierarchy of an office. But if he had a private office and then he's getting in there before you, like he doesn't understand any of this. He didn't know that you were sitting in there, right? He only sees this as you fucking with him in the times that you can sit there when he's not there. And like I said, I also don't understand how you can't just get with the assistants that work with you. Be like, let's find a different spot and put this whole thing to bed. Well, it sounds like Ceruti wants to fight. Uh-oh. Okay.
No,
What's the principle?
Well, it's your seat, technically. This goes back to this whole shift. And it's kind of, I think we're getting away from this too. But like this whole shift to like the open office concept where, everyone could just mingle and be free flowing and the creativity is just going to be, it's dumb. People need structure. People need structure.
Leave me alone.
They need places to sit. They need cubicles to sit. Yeah, it might be mind numbing, but like this, now people are having to deal with this. And
but this is because of a remodel. So this isn't like a new corporate shift and what they're doing. Like this guy's an office guy. So he thinks like I go from office to now getting to sit in whatever chair I want to. And he doesn't understand that you've been sitting there that whole time. And he also doesn't care either.
Well, that's the thing. He's basically checkmated you in the game of like crazy chicken, right? Like what move do you have? Do you accept the invite and then no show? Like, is that a better, I don't even know like how much further you kind of take this. Cause he has kind of trapped you. He holds all of the cards as far as just seniority and people liking him and even your future career growth. And he also is crazy enough to potentially want to fight you on a deck at work. So I think you just kind of take the L here. Yeah, the seat to me. I mean, you know me, I'm kind of passive. I probably wouldn't really care either way. I would just sit somewhere else, and maybe you can call me a bitch, but that's just what I would do. I don't really care. I don't know that there's like another move that's good for you in your future here, because if you fight this guy, you're fucked. If you
maybe not.
You think?
Well, I
if
don't
he
want to
hits
jump
you,
over.
you're in good shape if you don't fight back. That's a win.
That.
Yeah,
That
but
wasn't
you
what I
want to
was
be the
going
guy
with.
that gets, I don't know, then all the other senior managers are like, wow, like that was our higher performing guy. And I don't know, you're just never going to be looked at in the same, I think, the way you want at work. If you get punched and then the guy that everybody likes who's a high performer gets fired, that's probably not a place you want to be at.
I think this comes down to like two different things. I think my age is probably seeping in here a bit. And if I'm trying to totally understand the older guy, like, again, it's important to understand he never knew that you were sitting there. He only sees you as fucking with him right now. Okay. So like, even though your email lays out, like, I understand your approach to it, he doesn't understand any of this. He thinks that you were just out to mess with him. And if he's this irrational, easily agitated, then this is where we're at right now with this. But there is the legend status move. Are you sure he can't beat you up? I mean, I don't know that you ever really know that about anybody, right? I mean, not everybody, but you get the point. A lot of surprises out there. You know, a quiet kid has been wrestling for a really long time. 3 older brothers. Dad's been out of the picture. Some stepdad named Jeff can't play catch with him. You know, and that guy just doesn't even wait. You know, you get sitting there, you're getting mouthy outside of shellbacks, and it's like, next thing you know, it's like, oh, that guy didn't even say anything. So I think you have to be very honest with yourself. You did share your martial arts training, but are you sure you're going to win? Because if you're sure and you can win, and you want to go like Clint Eastwood and be like, hey, just so you know, like when it's about to happen, like no one here's going to HR.
Are we sure he's not just going to show up and this guy's got like a custody agreement drafted out, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's my seat. Tuesday, Thursday, it's yours.
We don't know that. Yeah, that's a good call too.
We have this type of seating in the World Trade Center office, which is insane. But shouts to our coworker Kat Spillane, who just wanted the same seat every day, and she just started leaving stuff. Slowly and slowly, she just made it like her desk that nobody else could sit in.
It's a good move.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you were to slap this guy and he goes to the ground and you're like, the chair is mine, they're going to hang your jersey in there. All right. You're going to be
fired though.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
You're going to be looking for a new job.
You might be if you want to keep playing this dance with a guy in senior management over a chair. I don't think this is.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a principal thing as much as it's our emailer's not. Like, I understand why you feel like you're being displaced. He is not doing that to mess with you. He is assuming that everybody understands why he would be in there, and the fact that he's getting in there before you every day, and at any opportunity that he's not there, he thinks you're just disrupting his deal the entire time. So you guys don't like that. You don't like that if you.
Maybe this is a generational thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but back to the physical part. You don't think if you could handle yourself physically that there wouldn't be some long-term benefit that you're the guy that slapped Gary on the roof patio over a chair. And then guess what? When Gary never sits in that chair again, the story slowly leaks out because you probably, be like, I went up there. I actually big taekwondo guy, and little hip toss, got him down, faked a crotch stomp. It's my chair now. You don't think that none of you guys like that, huh?
How's this guy pulling tenure and then asking for 2 separate checks too? Like, if you're this high earner, you got to be covering the bill
because he's in his chair.
Yeah, that was just that was a message.
Who pulled taekwondo hip drops on who? Was this at like what, Simsies? You just like fighting over chairs? What's going on?
No, this is the podcast. Danny Heifetz has jumped in. So no, we got an emailer.
Oh, did I come in the middle of life advice?
Yes.
Oh, I should get out of here.
I was like,
I thought it was 11:30. I'm going to leave.
You're good.
Fuck. I'll come back.
You're good.
Maybe we leave that in. Okay, good time to end it then. Thanks to Wargon, thanks to Ceruti, Jonathan Frias. We are a video podcast now on the Spotify app, our YouTube page, Ryen Russillo page. Check that out for extra content. And we will be on Friday this week, not Thursday. So I'll give you all the playoff stuff and recapping the first round of the NFL draft.
They were going to name me Michael Jordan. My dad was like, I don't think he can live up to it. So they named me Michael Jared.
Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in DC. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.